Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Andrew, and I'm very excited to introduce on our channel today, Reanna Schultz, who I've recently just added on LinkedIn and kind of reached out to because I was seeing some awesome content she was kind of putting out, as well as a B-side she was just a part of. But Reanna, I'm going to pass it to you for a quick introduction on yourself so you can introduce yourself.
And just real quick, I also just want to point out that Andrew has sent me several connection requests and I just keep ignoring them to the point they expire. And then eventually, after persistence and getting a LinkedIn premium account, he eventually reached out and said hi. So thank you for using your 1 credit on me.
You're welcome.
Legal reasons, that's a joke. No, and I really do appreciate you inviting me on here. I was really excited, even though I was probably the terrible person and rescheduled it several times.
We both had our reasons back and forth. Like we both double booked. Then I rescheduled. Oh, I double booked. Then you reschedule. I double booked. So it's...
Well, wait, what day is it again? Oh yeah, okay, we'll just make this work. As Andrew said, my name is Reanna Schultz. I have been in the cyber field for 7 years, and I always tell people every day is a new day. You think you've seen it all until you walk and you're like, huh, yeah, that's a new one. Didn't expect that on my bingo card for this month. So, I have a very diverse background. I worked my way actually on the engineering side for a bit. So I did a lot of endpoint security engineering. So working on antiviruses, EDR, you name it. If it touched a endpoint, that was my pride and joy for a bit. And then I found my way into network security. So I did a lot of IDS, firewall, email security, which, bless your heart, if you ever do email security, I am so sorry. And then eventually I found my way into the Security Operations Center, and that is where I really found my passion in detection engineering and really understanding trends and different threat landscapes and being able to take what I learned through my journey and give it back out to the community. So at night, I really hone in on my passions. I do podcasting, I do content creating, I ignore Andrew's messages, and then I also teach college on the side because he doesn't love to go back to college. Yeah.
Continuous learners is what they say for those
Oh,
who
yeah.
get into the industry. And that's an amazing background. And I think a good first question to ask that we ask everybody is when it comes into becoming a cybersecurity professional, usually as kindergartners and stuff, when you're drawing your future progressions, you're a firefighter, you're a nurse, a doctor, a lawyer. No one's like, I'm going to be a reverse engineer malware analysis SOC professor. So
No.
obviously, though, you have a strong passion for this. What really got you into the cybersecurity field and kind of got you into this journey?
So this is always a fun story. I grew up in rural Missouri. I am now more on the Kansas City, Missouri side, so go Chiefs / Taylor Swift, I guess. Depending on what your fan base is. Apologize for those people living in Philly. But I grew up in a very small town. I make the joke that there's definitely more cows than people. I didn't know what a stoplight was until I went to college, and that was probably the most stressful thing at 17 years old. I went to preschool graduation. I was asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be a vet because I love horses. And turns out I'm allergic to cats. I didn't find that out until I was in high school. And, you just kind of keep in the back of your mind, like, oh yeah, being an astronaut's cool, being a professional MLB, whatever. And when I found out I was allergic to cats, I'm like, huh, okay, well, whatever, I'll figure it out later.
Scratching off the dream list, like, okay.
Yep. I was like, I can't be a princess and I can't be a veterinarian. So what my parents did at 16, they had sat me down and they said, hey, you are now a sophomore and you need to figure out your life because once you graduate, you're out. Have fun, figure out the world. You need to go do your own thing. And I was like, wow, I love you guys so much. And again, right, rural Missouri, you grow up with that tough love. I remember you were the cool rich kid if you had an International Harvester tractor. So if you're John Deere, you're just like shunned by a group of kids. So yeah, it was a lot. So even though like my school, it wasn't really big into STEM. We didn't really have programming classes. I remember the only computer class that was offered in high school at that time was keyboard typing to learn how to type words per minute.
Yep.
And
Spaceboard, your pinkies on A, S, D, F, other pinkies on K, J, H, G, I recall, I think.
And I remember I was doing a STEM talk at a high school, and I was like, I remember being your age, sitting down and taking a keyboard typing test. And one kid's like, what is that? And I was like, oh. I was like, I'm officially that generation.
Back in my day, it's like, no.
But I mean, there's a lot to it. So of course I was going through, I played the oboe in high school. I did dance. I really thought I was going to do something with that. It wasn't really my passions. It was just things that I did. And even though like my high school didn't offer STEM, they did offer career fair day. And of course, being like 16, I thought this was the most stupid thing ever. Like, why am I taking a whole day to go listen about people's jobs? Like, I don't care. But I really glad that I did go. And of course, like at the career fair, they had different occupations. They had like the FBI, local FBI agent office. They had teachers come in, you know, a mom that showed up who was a nurse. I had the day off, decided to talk about health occupation, like just these little things. And there was one session that stuck with me. Even to this day, I remember this entire talk. And of course, being at 16, nothing matters at 16. And it was a state highway patrolman. And mostly because he had the really cool car. I'm not going to lie. I love a good sports car. But he spoke with such passion about his job. And because he was passionate and he truly believed in what he was doing for the community, he absolutely inspired me. I was like, holy cow, this guy loves life. This guy is excited to like talk about enforcing law, protecting the community, being that like that person that the community can rely on. And I was like, holy cow, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. I want to be a state highway patrolman. So I went home and I was like, hey, mom and dad, remember when you told me I need to figure out my life? I figured it out. I'm going to go be a state highway patrolman. And my dad's like, really? That's what you want to do? And I was like, yeah, it sounds fun. And I know you can't tell on camera. I am 5'2". I am tiny. So it worked out that I did not go be a police officer or anything irrelevant, because imagine a little tiny blonde girl just tackling a guy on the side of an interstate highway. Probably not. I don't know. Who knows? I surprise myself every day. But but my mom, bless my mom, she goes, okay, that's nice. How are you going to do it? And I was like, I guess you go to college. And she goes, okay, how are you going to go to college? And I was like, I guess I'll go figure that out too. So I went to my high school counselor because I had no idea what I was doing. My parents were one of those go figure it out or, learn the hard way, which is okay. I was definitely the kid that needed that type of parenting. I'm very stubborn, and I definitely did not get that at all on my mom's side of the family. But I went into my high school counselor and I said, hey, I want to be a patrolman. I think I should go to college. Everyone talks about college. And she used the phrase that stuck with me, and it was, nobody can take away your education, honey. And I said, okay. And she goes, even if you go and you absolutely don't like it, nobody can take that away from you. And your journey in education makes who you are. And I was like, okay, that's really nice. Like, thank you. But how do I go to college now? And so she talked to me about different scholarships, what scholarships are. She went over student loans, because I was like, oh, this is a lot of money. Like, they don't, like, this isn't like $100. Like, we're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars. Yep. And she goes, so, this is up to you and go figure it out. She goes, oh, by the way, you can graduate early. I don't know if you knew that. And nobody talks about graduating early from high school. And I was like, that's a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, yeah, you have all your credits. And I was looking at going into my senior year, because now I'm in my junior year, going into my senior year. And all of my classes was woodworking, welding, and show choir and band. I had zero like actual educational classes.
Now, these aren't academically. I mean, they're
right. I just basically it was not, it was the definition of senior year. And I I was like, okay. So anyways, I went home and I was doing research at colleges and everything else. And of course, I haven't told my parents about like the graduating early thing because I didn't know. And I was like, oh crap, I have to take a thing called an ACT. What's an ACT? And I signed up for the very first Saturday they had it. I went in and I took it and I got a 17. And I said, that is bare minimum to get in this college that's rated #1 for criminal justice. Sign me up. And in fact, I'm wearing the shirt right now. It's Central Missouri in Warrensburg. So I went to my
I'm in.
Yeah. So I put in the application literally in 24 hours. I got accepted and I went to my counselor and I was like, hey, I'm ready to graduate. I'm done with this place. And she goes, all right, sign this paperwork. You're good to go. And because in Missouri, at 17, you're considered an adult. So you can sign all of this stuff without your parents' consent at this point. So anyways, I go home. I'm accepted to college. I graduated high school. I am on cloud 9. And I was like, hey, mom and dad, by the way, I got accepted into college. And they're like, oh, cool. Awesome. Did you apply for student loans and stuff? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay, because we're not paying for it. I was like, I'm aware. Trust me. At this point, I'm aware about the plot. I think my life.
Yeah, with these conversations, I've filled in the dots. Thanks.
And then they're like, okay, so when does your semester start? And I was like, oh, in 4 weeks. And they're like, what? I was like, yeah, congrats. I graduated high school too. Plus my parents for raising me. But I went through, I signed up for my first criminal justice classes. And after the second semester, I hated it. I hated criminal justice. It was the most boring topic ever. And I kept thinking, I'm like, why am I sitting here? Why am I spending my time? Time I can never get back, by the way. And sit in classes I hate. I was like, this is dumb. And I really thought back to that career fair. Because now at this point, it's been a few years. And I'm like, why was I so sold on this? And I realized it was because that guy was so passionate. And so I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to get out of here with a degree and spend 40 years doing something, it needs to be in like something I absolutely enjoy. And I was bodybuilding at the time. I was about to go sign up for competitions. I was super, super into fitness. I was making diet plans for people. Like I was going to actually consider like a physical therapy license. And so I said, all right, apparently like I enjoy the gym so much. I am going to go switch to physical therapy. And I took anatomy. I hated anatomy.
Oops.
Hated anatomy. Absolutely hated anatomy. And my final exam, they had a plastic foot with like little different arrows on it. I literally put big toe, middle toe, pinky toe, little pigs went to the market. And my professor, he just put ha ha ha, but no, on the paper. But I realized like anatomy wasn't for me either. And I had to take 3 more years of anatomy. Absolutely not. Count me out. And I thought to myself, why is it something that like I thought I enjoyed in my free time I can't apply to my studies? And then also what's something that makes me excited? And I realized, and when you go to college, you have to take what they call elective courses. And this is extra classes to make you meet specific state and federal requirements. And so this might be a music class or an art class or whatever. I did take a technology course. And for some reason, the only class open that semester was Python programming. I have never done any programming in my life. The extent I know is how to type on a keyboard. And I said, okay, why not? It's open this semester and it's not at 8 a.m. or maybe it was, I don't remember. And I was like, okay, sign me up. So I showed up. I fell in love with this class and it blew my mind. And in my opinion, some people view elective courses as a waste of money, but in my favor, it allowed me to be outside of my box and take something I wasn't familiar with. And when I took Python programming, I fell in love with this. And I really thought to myself, why am I enjoying this so much more in things that I thought I would be excited for. And I realized it was the type of thinking. Criminal justice, it's very black and white. It's this answer, not this answer. And same thing with anatomy. It's very black and white answers. And I'm not that person. And probably talking about my upbringing and how I don't do things the way probably is intended to do. Programming was right up my alley because it allowed me to be creative and have different solutions to a problem, and allowed me to essentially find how I think and how I can apply it. And lucky for me, I ended up going to a college who later introduced cybersecurity as a degree. And I remember one of my professors like, oh, you should take this cyber class. I'm like, what's cyber? And she goes, yeah, you should just take this class. And I'm like, okay, cool. But what's cyber? Yeah. Anyways, it's at 1:00, 3 times a week. You should just go. And I'm like, what's cyber? And she goes, yeah, you'll figure it out. And AKA nobody knew. And this was like probably in 2016, 2017. So like cybersecurity was coming out, IoT was a thing around this time, their botnet attacks were starting to hit news. So cybersecurity was
There was in the household, people were down their favorite tracks.
Yes. And I took this class and it kind of ticked me off. I'm not going to lie. Because we're learning about these threat actors and how people can manipulate code in just seconds. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I spent 8 hours programming this application just for someone to go and like hack it in 2 seconds. I'm like, sign me up for this. This is like a professional internet troll. I want this job. And one of the things that I learned throughout that is 3 lessons here. One, you have to be okay taking risk and failing. And I failed a lot. I failed classes. I failed time. I wasted money. And one of the things that also came out of this was networking. I really, really pushed for a ethical hacking club to be at my university, which is now a competitive hacking team that people can have scholarships and, work experience for, which is awesome.
That's so cool.
But going up and shaking someone's hand that's in the field is the most daunting thing ever. And probably because we grow up with the saying stranger danger, but for some reason that doesn't apply in the community. You have to meet people to build your network. Or you could just be like you, Andrew, and just keep messaging people in LinkedIn. But
persistence is the key. Politely, but persistence is the key.
My husband will tell you the same thing. So anyways, take risk. It's okay to fail. And then the second one is it kind of leads into this. You have to be engaged in the community. And even now being in the field for a very, very long time, networking got me into my first role, which got me into essentially the position and quote unquote influence I have now. But giving back and being involved in the community is such a big thing. And it doesn't stop in your career because layoffs happen.
Yep.
Or the threat landscape is forever evolving. And the moment you stop networking, the moment you stop being engaged in the community, that's when you failed as a professional, in my opinion. Of course, like the corporate answer is always continue to learn, be humble, be hungry. So besides that one, that's my saying. And then the very third thing is know your passions. Like there's so many different areas in cybersecurity. And it took me almost 3 years to figure out, this area in cyber, like I always tell people, what you're passionate about, because whenever someone brings a topic up, you kind of just like sit in your seat a little, or your attention goes that direction. And it's because it's something that excites you. It's something that you want to talk about and really own that and build upon it. Your manager, supervisor, your mentor aren't the people that tell you where you can and can't go. They help guide you. They help, put guardrails up or give you ideas to be challenged on. But you, at the end of the day, have to decide what's your passion back, because you never know who you're going to inspire in the community or who might try to network with you to get their journey started or start building their own career. So it's kind of cool. It's a ripple effect at end of the day. But anyways, long-winded story. I went from petting cows to corporate America. So
no, and there were so many good things you hit across that entire story, because I think, and I try to reemphasize this into networking and just community and learning, is at some point in time, you're going to want to retire. I'm going to want to retire. John Hammond, Network Chuck, all your big name
Oh,
cyber
wait, John
influencers.
Hammond retires. Like the community is just gonna have a day of silence. Like he's my comfort channel.
So my thought process to it though is just when it comes into our younger generations of cybersecurity, being a good mentor and not being a gatekeeper and sharing all that information and knowledge, what worked for me, what has worked across my network. Here's a bunch of fun, cool, free resources. Because just like you said, I'd say breaking into any career field or going to school or breaking into cyber, it can be very expensive. And so that's one thing I always push toward my channel as well. And folks I even talk to when it comes into mentoring, I'm like, hey, look, if there's that ROI, that return on investment for going to college, taking on that debt, if you have a trust fund, if you have a college fund you want to go to, finding that passion you want to get into, same thing. I will never tell anyone not to go to college. I think there's some great pros in it. You'll get to network. You're going to meet friends. You're going to meet cool, do fun hobbies and other groups now that a lot of colleges have. I mean, colleges nowadays have gaming, like EA game teams. So like that was not back around in my day, which is just like, that would have been super cool. But now there's hacking teams, there's hacking org classes, there's like chill code rooms, like there's all this stuff.
And the amount of free benefits in the community, being a college student, like conferences, volunteer, like they love college students.
Yeah. And just being curious and asking why, and just like you said, networking, as many times I've learned from my LinkedIn rejections, trying to reach out to people and connecting, there's going to be those folks that say no, that are going to ignore me. But you know what? I like to tell people, hey, still shoot your shot. There's been a few folks I've been opening my door to mentorship the last few months. And sometimes I'll get a random friend request from someone I don't know. And I'm like, I do some quick OSINT. I look at who they are. I'm like, okay, it looks like they're in college. I accept it. Then here comes the message. Hey, I don't have LinkedIn Premium, but I was hoping to connect, see if you'd be willing to talk for 5-10 minutes. I want to get into the field. And it makes me excited because, like, same thing. Like, once you have a passion for something and you want to talk about it, you want to talk to others about it. And if they have that same passion, it's just, your toes are curled. You're up on the seat. You're all excited. You're getting all in the face. And it's just nice to also hear and see people getting excited for that stuff.
Yeah. I work with a guy and to tell you like about the different passions or whatever, I'm very into like emerging threat tactics, new variants, stuff like that. And he will come in and he'd be like, did you read the change release notes? And I'm like, no. He goes, why? And I was like, I don't care. And he goes, you should. But, some people are very passionate on like the emerging technologies or the vulnerability patching and stuff like that. I personally read Archie comics, not change notes. So
I'm like, I restarted my computer on Tuesday. Does that count? It's like, so
I always like mess with him and I'm like, yeah, I turn off automatic updates on my apps because it got annoying.
Well, another question I guess we can spin off of is, so college and certifications experience, folks try to get into these entry roles and they keep getting that combative push of, oh, you need more experience. I know a lot of times talking to folks that I chat with, once I kind of figure out what their passion is and what they want to do with cybersecurity, giving them tools like TryHackMe, Hack the Box, Pico CTF, building a home lab, networking across the community, finding your local meetups, B-sides, if there's a DC 480 or the DEF CON group, which is now changing because DEF CON released their Reddit thread of now DEF CON groups can't be DC groups. They have to change regardless. But what advice do you like to kind of give out or kind of help people steer in toward, like, when they're trying to break into the field, like how can they get that experience without getting that job first?
Yeah. And I feel like, and people might rage with what I'm about to say, and that's okay. That's the part of the community, right? Is having diverse opinions and just hearing what everyone else to say. I feel like there's two problems going on in our field right now. There is the problem where hiring teams don't know how to market for specific candidates that they look like. They are just taking job descriptions from other postings and they're Frankensteining it to what their company's values are. And I'm not even kidding. I did a talk about this. I believe it was in Chicago in 2024, and it was talking about developing your career paths, developing, how do you build a cyber defense program and how to write a job description. And I pulled up a couple examples, and the company was hiring for entry level. It was tagged as entry level, even said in the title, entry level junior analyst, blah, blah, blah. And then all the way down at the qualifications, it said years of experience. Actually, it said years, but years of experience in executive level briefing, and then also pursuing or having a CISSP. And I'm like, I don't know, like what level one you're hiring that's doing executive level briefings, but send him my way. I'm curious. I want to meet this guy. Like,
So your junior analyst? I don't even see your senior analyst. They're all C-suite.
like I'm not qualified for those. You know?
It's funny you say that too, because it's just like I've talked to recruiters and I've talked to hiring managers, and it's like sometimes a lot of hiring managers on SOC teams, they will write their own job recs because they've made the mistake of telling a recruiter, yeah, just go ahead and get a job rec for me. And then they'll go pivot to it for like, why are you asking for 5 SAN certifications, SSCP, CISSP? A junior level can't even qualify for CISSP without X amount of years experience with like a mentor or someone also signing on for the experience, saying they had the experience in years to actually do the work.
Yeah. And I always tell hiring managers or like people that are writing job descriptions for this field, it is very different. It's not even, I would say, even the same as an engineering role or a developer role. It is a very different role to write for. And luckily for us, because everyone in cyber loves documentations and processes and everything, there is a beautiful framework called NIST NICE framework. And it's produced by NIST, and it takes every single job role that's out there. And it gives you essentially, hey, this is how a level 1 should be able to perform. This is what they should know. This is what their skills in. This is what a architect should know, or your reverse engineers, your forensic investigators. So it lets you have all of those different tasking skills and knowledge sets, which is super nice for a person writing a job description for the first time, or someone that's like, hey, I don't know where my skill gaps are. You can open that up and just look, right? Industry standard. It doesn't mean it's perfect for your company because this is very government jargon, but again, right, it's a good area to start with.
Yeah.
So long, I guess, answer to the first half of that. Problem number 1 is marketing for correct jobs. Now number 2 is the years of experience. And I will tell you what, I had serious, I would say probably imposter syndrome being a freshman in college or right out of high school. Apply for an internship. It doesn't matter if you're a junior, a senior, a freshman, whatever, apply for an internship, because that's also going to help you figure out what you want to do and where you want to get invested in. And I tell people, don't take the job description for, I would say, for what it is.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, again, going back to the first problem is marketing. They're just pasting a bunch of qualifications sometimes and this and that. Now, if you read about the company and you look at their mission, vision, and values, and you can't find it easily, I always tell people that's a red flag for an internship. Or maybe not. Maybe a company like that's totally good for you. But to me, I like structure. And if the website is not good and I can't figure out what the company does, probably not for me. Now for volunteer experience, we kind of hit a little bit about this. Be engaged, be involved in the community. There is so many things going out there, and there are a lot of cyber nonprofit groups that are seriously looking. It doesn't matter if you're a college student transitioning into a career, or if you just retired from the service. There's so many volunteer projects to be involved in. B-Sides is very one that's, I would say, international and global.
Yep.
Volunteermatch.com is also a place I recommend people to go and just look up, cyber jobs. There's a lot of the ones that are remote that are volunteer service. And especially for those that are international and they just graduated college and they're on that visa, it is volunteermatch.com is really, really great to look for those 20 hours of volunteer experience to kind of extend your visa a little bit. I always tell people to see what content creators on social media are doing because they're usually a single person team doing all of the work and everything. And a lot of the times, and it's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. And I'm going to kind of like pat myself on the shoulder for a little bit. But with my LLC with CyberSpeak Labs, I have a podcast And usually I try to drop 2 podcasts a month. Things get busy, so oopsie poopsie. But one of them is me bringing people like you onto the platform and talking about your journey, how you got in, words of advice and wisdom. And then the second half is me deep diving into a breach. And I absolutely enjoy taking people in the community trying to break in or people in college and help them like guide me through their research for the threat I'm looking at. Because now it's something they can put on their resume. It's something that they can put on their social media to start branding. And one of like the cool wins out of this, I had a volunteer help me with my research. And he actually, because of all of his research and all his work he did, he actually got scouted for a company so he could lead a panel session at an upcoming event.
Oh, wow.
Because of his thing. And that panel session led him to a full-time job. So you just never know. Yeah, you just never know. Or, and people are like, I don't know how to like get out there. I don't know how to network. And I'll give you this link, Andrew. I don't mind, but get involved on LinkedIn, get involved on Discord.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I did is I went out there and I found as many cyber discords as I possibly can, because again, right? Yeah, every discord's a little different with what you're trying to accomplish. And I just put it on my page.
Not to cut you off. So funny you say that. So
yeah,
I'm in a local group here, which I told you yesterday we had to reschedule for my DC 4.0 group. What my talk was breaking into cyber. It's so easy a cop can do it. Funny title, I know. But a piece of that too was I have resources too, not probably as I have like maybe 12, but like the cyber discords, like, hey, here's some discords that are just great to be in to see information that comes out. People will post job roles. People will be talking about certifications they're doing in study groups. And it's exactly that. It's like honestly just getting into those discords and just like being a part of the community. And
and everyone's so friendly, which is like ironic. You would think people like chasing adversaries and threat actors and vulnerabilities all day would just be grungy, I guess is the word, but no, it's such an open community. Like everyone just wants to support each other. And I think that's so awesome, especially for how stressful this field is. Like you having a strong community and support behind you goes such a long way. It's a lot better when everyone's fighting the same fire and everyone gets the same pain.
Well, we've talked about mentorship and mentees. Would you have any good recommendations? Like, so obviously I could probably say this with high confidence. You and I are very much chatty Cathy, extroverted IT people. When I was at the state of Arizona, my nickname was Tigger because I have so much energy. But obviously there's a lot of people in our field that they're kind of recluse. They're very, hey, I just want to come in, get my work done. I had a coworker at the bank I worked at where he's like, Andy, I like things about you, man. You make me talk 3 more times than I would any other time, because you force me to have conversations, positive conversations.
Right.
But it's 3 times I don't need to talk, but he'll bring me in. I'll get him to talk on certain things or events. And it's like, yeah, man, like your info is great. And I'm like, it's also just good to have those good soft skills. But mentorship and mentees, how important would you say that is in this day and age?
It's, in my opinion, it's a must, absolutely a must. And I look back, right? And I said this earlier, I've been in the field for 7 years, and I look back at the different mentors I've had throughout my chapters. And there's this one gal, she was my very first mentor. And I was so heartbroken when she decided to leave like the company I was working at to go pursue amazing and wonderful things. And I was so mad at her for being so successful. But more, I was like, oh my gosh, it's like when my big sister goes to college. But I still talk to her to this day because she is such like a driving force for me in a lot of different ways. And she has such a like a neutral opinion, especially if I'm like, hey, how would you approach this conflict? How would you write this email? How would you keep this person accountable in corporate humor way? Because I'm getting annoyed. And she's still such a great person for that. Now, as I went and kind of like grew my career, climbed up corporate ladder, I found leadership to be more of my area of enjoyment, I would say. I enjoy the people part. I enjoy like really investing and just being part of that bigger picture to make sure like the day-to-day stuff is well supported with everything coming top down. I really, really enjoy that.
Yeah.
And yeah. And of course, like when you go into leadership, and even like if you're an IC, you're gonna have to deal with things, difficult conversations. You're gonna have to deal with different personalities, especially working in tech. A lot of people sometimes have very big personalities, and which means they have big feelings when they get upset. So, and of course,
handle with care. It's
right. And I'm like, you have to learn how to navigate that while also coming through a solution. And it's just a different type of thinking, in a different layer. I call it, I guess emotional intelligence would be the textbook word for it. But it requires a different level of switching your on and off switch between work serious to, building morale. And there's a very good happy balance with that. And with me, one thing I struggled with very early on, and it wasn't a secret at all, is I was very outgoing, but I had a very difficult time being direct to groups of people that need a direct message across, because everyone, when you deliver messages, everyone has a specific way of receiving them. And I personally don't like vague responses. I don't do well with that. I'm very literal. And I like to just take an idea that someone has and then, go run with it. And instead of like, I always compare it as like the episode off of The Office where Kevin goes, "Why speak so little?" That's how I feel. I'm like, that doesn't make sense, But I have different mentors that challenge me to be direct or have a voice to challenge ideas in a safe way. And even though like my very first mentor is great in so many ways, I needed someone that I could find that's the complete polar opposite of me. I literally found the most like difficult person to work with in my group. And I said, "We're going to lunch." And he was all like, "I'm okay." And I was like, "Okay, we're going to lunch."
It wasn't a question.
I was like, "We're either going somewhere or I'm going to bring my lunch here. So I'll let you decide." It's like negotiating with a 5-year-old. But I always tell people when you first like look for a mentor, and especially in today's age, there is such an advantage with technology and content creators, or, just seeing what everyone is being involved with. I always tell people, if you don't know where to start, if you're like, I'm on LinkedIn for the very first time, I always tell people go check out the hashtag like cybersecurity. Just start somewhere simple, look and see if there's content that really interests you and just follow that content, because maybe you'll find someone that's very experienced that seems to like really resonate with you. Reach out to them.
Yeah.
And just ask questions, and you never know who they might connect you with as well. And of course, Discord. Oh my gosh, there's so many people on Discord that are just willing to mentor. Do not ask Reddit. Don't ask Reddit. I learned that the hard way very early on.
So how far can the rabbit hole go? So yeah, I'd say my top two have been Discord, LinkedIn, and I've petitioned LinkedIn as like the new cover letter of like when it comes to job hunting, and like that's in a real sense when you're applying out, the first thing a recruiter or manager is going to do, they're going to go to your LinkedIn page. They're going to see who you are. Like I had a buddy of mine that he was trying to get into cyber, and I'm like, "Hey man, like let's create your LinkedIn." Did for like 6 months, just had like the question mark profile. I'm like, "Dude, I'm coming over today. You're going to throw on a polo, because we're just going to do like a nice little upper body photo, and we're going to take a quick and easy photo with like your backdrop on your blinds." Did it wonders. And within like a month, he ended up getting a role. Probably not solely because of the photo picture. However,
it was only the photo.
Yeah, that's what made it work. But having that name to a face, and then getting to kind of get to see that personality through your profile and what you're doing and what you're updating in. I had one user, I almost felt bad for him, but he's like, "Yeah, like, I'm nervous to share the stuff I'm doing," because he was trying to break into cyber and pivot from his current work, and he had coworkers on his LinkedIn. And he's like, I'm nervous to think what they're going to think." I'm like, "Are they in cyber?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Are you proud of what you're doing?" He's like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Dude, share what you're doing, dude, because that stuff is awesome." Like,
and that's what I tell people, like, don't be afraid. Like, you're allowed to be human. That is the point of networking. I was like, otherwise Siri and Chat GPT are going to be having coffee all day and I'm never going to get my answers answered. And I tell people, they're like, "Oh, well, what if my employer sees it? What if my recruiter sees it? What if my boss sees it?" And I'm like, who cares? What are they going to do? Take away your birthday for having a personal life? If they don't like what you're posting, and assuming you're not like trash talking about your employer and your boss. I feel like different. That's a different
Leave the
comment.
big role space I'm doing. Look what I just did
Yeah.
in cyber. Hashtag counting down the days. Like
That's when you go to Reddit. No. But in all seriousness, like if you're posting things that the community can build off of, and just you can always ask your HR person too if you're afraid like what you're posting might be conflict of interest or whatever. As long as it's vague and you align to your company's policies, absolutely. Like, again, you're totally fine. And I also tell people if you're very concerned about association with what you're doing outside of work to your work, just put confidential as your employer. And if you're looking around for jobs low key on the side, I was like, then have it listed on your resume because that's
shadow account. No, don't.
Yeah, shadow account. Shadow IT. That's my job right now with my shadow account. Yeah. But yeah.
No, so I guess we have like 3 questions left, I think, and I think we have enough time. So my third question, I guess, for you is certificates versus experience. And when you're listing this stuff onto a resume, so my opinion for this is I think certificates have their place.
Yeah.
I think when you're trying to break into, like when I was leaving law enforcement, I had a criminal justice degree with a certificate in Homeland Security. I was missing all that educational degree-ness when I was out. I had my Sec Plus, and I was applying out to places like, oh, so you're coming from law enforcement with your criminal justice degree with Sec Plus. Like, so what cyber stuff do you know? I'm like, that's why I applied for this entry-level role. So I then learned, I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna go to the route of I pivoted to a master's. I did a bridge program, got my master's in cybersecurity. That taught me some of the not the legal. It was a business continuity plan, more or less degree capstone. So I got to build a business continuity plan. It was like a 70-page. I made my own MSSP was my thing. I got to build a network map, do some tooling, all this other stuff. It helped me catch up to the lingo and all the acronyms. And then here came all the certificates, which we'll get into that here in 2 seconds as well, where I'm like, okay, well, I'm missing the experience in cybersecurity. So if I get these certifications and I know and I learn and I train myself on them, and I actually can retain the information, not just get a cert, dump it, get a cert, dump it. That's how I'm going to now be a rock star on these interviews. So, and I have the pitch and the thing I say, I'm like, look, you can have an alphabet of certifications behind your name, but if you can't implement and do the training, and Bree Frost says it the best, she's over at Pluralsight, you're never going to be pen testing or working on a router saying, okay, option 1, A, you need to do this. B, it's like, no, you need to actually go and like regurgitate the information you learned to solve the problem. What would you say your thought process is on that when it comes to certifications to boost that resume or that experience? What do you think carries more weight?
It also like if you're applying
with the double-edged sword, it's hard.
Right. Hey, if you're an intern, you're having executive level briefings over there. I mean, if you're first starting, and there is this guy, his name is Josh something. I have to look him up, but he's a recruiter at Dragos if he's still there.
Okay.
And he had posted on LinkedIn one day, and he goes, certifications get you the interview. Certifications don't get you the job. And there's some truth to that, right? And again, you can have every acronym at the end of your name and email signature or whatever, but if you can't talk about the topics, or if you can apply the topics that you study for, it's why did you go get a cert just so you can interview all day? And so I tell people, I'm like, when you go get a cert, when you study for a cert, you have to take your experience and give it back to the community. There's a reason why, like for example, Try Hack Me did all of those free vouchers for their SAL 1 certification because they asked people, hey, go take this cert and then go talk about your experience. And that helped people kind of guide and learn how to study for the exam. And then another thing I always tell people, I'm like, if you're going to go do, we'll just say a Sec Plus or whatever, take 1 or 2 of those concepts and build off of it, right? Maybe this is a home lab. Maybe this is a research article on this type of thing that you learned, or hey, make a post or a newsletter on LinkedIn about what CIA means and what it should mean to a business, right? Because now you're putting what you learned to a physical example in your resume that you can literally link on LinkedIn or link on your resume for people to review and learn. And also, just from like my personal experience, especially like being a teacher and stuff, I always tell students, I'm like, it's one thing to talk about, oh yeah, I took a SEC plus and I passed. It's another thing to go, hey, I took a SEC plus and inspired me to do this and this and this. Because now you're showing literally your learning into action. And that's a huge thing to do. It's because companies do continuous education. It's very common, but are they going to waste money on you to just go keep getting certifications, or are you going to go do that certification to bring it back?
Well, but yeah, it's like the train the trainer mindset is, I always mention to my team, it's like, hey, when I was over at Wells Fargo, like, yeah, folks would go to conferences or go do cool trainings. And that's one thing we started really implementing strongly. Like, hey, come back and like just do, they'd have a brown bag or like a training for the day. Like, hey, we're going to go over this really cool concept. Like my very first DEF CON, AI was slowly but surely coming out, and they had Gandalf AI. I don't know if you're familiar with. So
yeah.
Got to kind of like a very, very rudimentary, like, in a sense, AI hacking, where it's like, hey, get Gandalf to tell you the password. And that's what I brought back to my team, just saying, hey, I'm like, you get to now convince this AI bot that has specific ruling that it's embedded with of not providing information, and you're going to get it to tell you the information, which is it was a password. But you could emphasize that in more of a bigger, broader picture of like doing AI data testing and like penetration testing, which I thought was really cool at the time. Now, AI now is huge in many other different means, but
Telling dad jokes every day. That's what I have it for.
And
but
I agree with you. The Try Hack Me level 1 SOC analyst, I took it non-sponsored, but I was able to take one of their free vouchers. Like, I actually very much enjoyed the certification and the test for it. It was nice not to just be hit with multiple choice questions and actually have a sim to actually go in and try and like see the alerts come in, actually work them. And I got it done in a relatively fast. I was very happy. I'm like, oh, cool. In the words of John Hammond, at least I'm a SOC level 1 analyst. I did it. I passed. But it's just like, it was cool. And I think those hands-on experience certifications go so much more way than just a multiple choice. Like, hey, can you remember these questions and topics, and can you rather actually do the job?
Yeah. And I have such a hard time just sitting down and just doing question after question. I'm also, I don't have any certifications. I took one certification exam, and that was at SANS, and it was their SEC 530, and they had just rolled it out that year. It was a brand new class. It talks about literally anything you could think of, architecture, zero trust. I loved it. I love studying for it. I went in and I took it, and I missed it by 2 questions. And with like SANS exams, right? It's not like, oh, you get one freebie. No, it's going to be another $2,000 out of your pocket to go take this. And I'm all like, well, I just like already basically spent like a good whatever, on this. And I'm like, whatever. But what I did do is I went back and I did a lessons learned on, like, for myself on how I can index the SANS books better, because it's open note. You can take your book then.
Yep.
But like how I indexed it, how I studied it, and everything else. And then of course, like when I went to college, I kind of like put myself back to like what tests I did good on as a student compared to the ones I didn't. I hated true and false. Like any of my classes I teach, I remove true and false. They're so dumb.
You all get 10 free questions. You're welcome.
Yeah. I'm like, no, this is just going to be a multiple choice. Like, that's not the real world. Like, is it true that you should be doing this over this? And I'm all like, like, oh, okay. So anyways, I removed those and whatnot. And I even my exams, it's just all the questions at once. And so that way students can like go back and forth if they want it. Because again, I'm one of those people, I take an exam, go for the first like 2 or 3 questions, go to the very, very end, and then go back to the middle. And then I'm all like, what was I doing? Let's go flip through and, feel good about, yeah. And maybe that's my rural route showing, where the teachers are like, answer the easy questions first, then go back to the hard ones. And then you're like, that's not how real world works,
Well, I appreciate that concept because sometimes I do the same thing. So good, well-liked minds. So, well, we have 2 questions left, and I'm so glad you got to come on this channel. I'm so glad you finally accepted my LinkedIn request.
Oh yeah, persistence is key.
Hey, but so this is a very off-topic question. So
Yeah.
cybersecurity is obviously a huge part of your life, but when all the computers get turned off, get off work, it's a nice, long, fun weekend. What are you doing to unwind and unplug away from cybersecurity?
Well, so there's 2 answers I can give you. The real answer is I play Sims, I host parties, and then I remove the ladders from the pools. But we all have our own coping mechanism with the real life. I do not get good star ratings on my house parties on Sims. So if people stop coming, probably because I ran out of people to show up. Um, No, during like the weekends and stuff like that, I have a dog, and if you ever look up my company, the logo is a beagle, and that is who my dog is. And I always joke that he is the center of my life. He is my pride and joy, and I also just want to like put him in daycare some days and just let him stay there for a week. But he is he is the center of my life. I love taking him to dog parks. Him and I do nice little hiking trails and stuff like that. We'll go for car rides. He knows which drive-throughs he gets free stuff at.
Those pup cups.
So
Keep
yeah,
the body.
we gotta hit the Taco Bell, the McDonald's, and the Starbucks. And he probably gets more food and more enjoyment out of it than I do. I am the side character, the NPC of his world. So he is the main character. Yeah. Yeah, he is my pride and joy, but I'm also a huge book reader. I read a lot of science fiction. I've been super for some reason at history books. I like that is I never really like was a history person, but I think now that I'm getting older and I'm just wanting to know like how did we develop in our current events now? Like what was it like 50 or 60 years ago? And that's just something I've been trying to really do. Another thing, I do a lot of chess. I like playing chess. I have a subscription to chess.com and I will binge play chess for hours. I don't know, maybe it's like the satisfying like moves of a knight. I don't know, but I enjoy it. Yeah. There's always different video games that I like to play with. I was on a Mario Kart League for the longest time.
What?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So I like playing Yoshi. I like to play Yoshi and ride the little Yoshi car, mostly because of the little Yoshi arms, because they go like this and you but yeah, no, I try to have fun. I think it's really, really important to definitely have that work-life balance, that separation. And I remember being early on in my career, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna put in 60 hours just to work and be a hard worker. And I'm like, no, you need cycles. You need to like go home and have a reset because you never know, especially in this field, you never know what tomorrow might bring and you never know how many emotions you're going to deal with. And the best advice, and we talked about mentors earlier, the best advice a mentor has ever given me is I tell my team, I never want to see 100% from them. I never want to see anything over an 85%. If they're doing 85%, if they're giving 85%, that's what I ask for. And I'm like, I don't know if you're being serious or not, because this is like going against everything I was raised and told. And there's some truth to that. 85%, because you need cycles to process driving home. You need cycles to process what happened at work. And if you just go at 110% 24/7, you're going to run out of patience. You're not going to be a happy person. Everything just ticks you off, and next thing you know, you're having Sims parties and you're removing ladders out of the pool to like process your day. But
it's been one of those days. She had 2 parties that weekend, both times removed the ladder.
Like, I'm going to have to max the civilian count on my game. Sorry, computer, blowing smoke, it's okay. for a healthy cause. And I had another mentor, and he's actually passed now. And I remember he had like stage 4 cancer, and he was such a nice guy. Like, he was good attitude all the way to the end. And I went to go see him, and I said, I finally get to tell you how I feel about you. And he just looks at me, he goes, okay, and I was like, you give me advice and it's annoying because it's true and I was mad at you. So I'm just letting you know, like, I still like follow this advice. And he told me, he goes, you're allowed to be passionate, but your hobbies can't be your passion, like your day passions. And there's some truth to that. Especially, I mean, you might get caught up in the excitement of like creating new videos, you know, talking to this person and like you're posting all these things, and then you realize like, oh, it's 8 o'clock and I haven't been time with my family, or it's 8 o'clock and my dog keeps bringing me his leash and I keep telling him in a moment, but he doesn't understand those words. But but there's some truth to that. And so really like finding that identity from work to outside passions to things you enjoy is very difficult.
Yeah.
But it's something that's so much needed. So anyways, I guess there's a lesson to that question that you asked me. Long story short, Sims, books, Sudoku, chess, dogs, game. Okay.
Well, I have to say thank you so much for coming on this channel. And if you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, say what your favorite part was on this call. But as a huge thank you as always, I like to tell everyone that they get some awesome, cool Ginger Hacker swag for coming on the channel. So thank you for me getting to steal about an hour of your time. And last but not least, the last piece of advice you'd give someone trying to break into cyber.
Yes. Don't give up. Don't give up. And stranger danger is not always dangerous. No, but in all seriousness, it could be absolutely frustrating. I always tell people like transitioning into any career, not just cyber, is probably worse than dating. And you get ghosted more on LinkedIn that you probably will on Tinder or Bumble. So just be prepared for that. But it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It doesn't mean that you're a terrible person, you're not qualified, you're not any of this. Do not let that get to you. And it's really important to, again, right, be engaged in your community so you can have that support for those moments where you do feel frustrated or you feel like you just need to have a sanity check that what you're doing is okay, or maybe you need to adjust your approach as well. So really be engaged in your community and just don't give up. It's okay.
Awesome. Well, with that, everybody, this is another episode of Breaking the Cyber. Thank you so much for sticking around to the very end, and I will catch you on the next video.